There is a season in life when the loudest thing you can do is be quiet, not because you don't have a voice, not because your story doesn't matter, but because your growth needs privacy. Everybody doesn't deserve a front row seat to your becoming. Everybody can't handle the weight of what God is building in you. And when you give people access too early, they will try to manage what they were never assigned to steward. Some of us talk too much because we're looking for validation. We announce plans because we want applause. We explain ourselves because we're afraid of being misunderstood. But silence isn't weakness. Silence is discipline. Silence is maturity. Silence is trusting that the work will speak louder than your mouth ever could. You don't owe everyone an explanation for your process. You don't have to narrate every step of your healing. You don't have to post every breakthrough the moment it happens. Some victories need to be protected before they are presented. Some seeds need darkness before they ever see the light. And when you expose things too soon, you invite opinions that can poison your confidence. There are people who will clap for you in public but question you in private. There are people who smile in your face but secretly hope you fail because your progress confronts their comfort. When you work in silence, you remove unnecessary interference. You give God room to work without human commentary interrupting the miracle. Silence teaches you how to listen. It sharpens your discernment. When you stop talking so much, you start noticing who's really for you and who's just around you. You begin to hear God more clearly because you're not drowning out His instructions with your own noise. Sometimes the reason you're confused is not because God isn't speaking, but because you won't stop speaking long enough to hear Him. Working in silence doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're focusing. It means you're no longer performing for people who aren't qualified to grade your assignment. It means you've learned that not everyone clapping is celebrating, and not everyone questioning is concerned. Some people just want access so they can sabotage what they don't understand. You don't need to tell people what you're about to do. Let them see what you've done. Let the consistency speak. Let the discipline talk. Let the results answer the questions you used to feel pressured to respond to. There is power in showing up prepared instead of showing up loud. A closed mouth protects a focused mind. Every time you announce your next move prematurely, you give people permission to plant doubt, and sometimes they don't even mean to hurt you. Their fear becomes advice. Their limitations become warnings. Their insecurities become opinions, and if you're not careful, you'll start shrinking your vision to make other people comfortable. There is a difference between accountability and accessibility. Everyone does not get access to your plans. Everyone does not get a vote in your future. Everyone does not get to sit in the room where your dreams are discussed. Some rooms require silence to enter, because what's being built there is sacred. When you work in silence, you develop resilience. You learn how to keep going even when nobody is cheering. You learn how to be faithful without recognition. You learn how to trust the process even when there's no audience. And that kind of strength cannot be faked. It's forged in the quiet moments when it's just you and God. Just you and the work. Just you and the discipline. Some of you are frustrated because you're talking more than you're building. You're explaining more than you're executing. You're defending more than you're developing, and every explanation is draining energy that could be used to move forward. You don't need to convince people of your calling. If it's real, it will produce fruit. Silence is not about shutting people out. It's about tuning yourself in. It's about knowing when to speak and when to let the work speak for you. It's about understanding that timing matters. What you say at the wrong time can delay what you're praying for. What you reveal to the wrong person can slow down what God is accelerating. There is a confidence that comes when you stop oversharing. You stop needing approval. You stop needing permission. You stop needing reassurance. You start trusting what was placed inside of you. You start moving with intention instead of impulse. You start valuing progress over praise. You don't need to announce your healing. Let your peace introduce itself. You don't need to announce your growth. Let your boundaries speak. You don't need to announce your elevation. Let your consistency make the introduction. When people see the change without you explaining it, it carries more weight. Working in silence also teaches you humility. It reminds you that the work isn't about impressing people, it's about obeying purpose. It's about showing up when no one is watching. It's about doing the right thing even when there's no credit attached. And that kind of obedience attracts favor that no amount of talking can manufacture. Some battles are lost because too many people knew you were fighting them. Some dreams died because too many people were invited into the process. Some ideas never made it because they were exposed before they were ready. Protect your vision. Guard your progress. Keep some things between you and God until they are strong enough to stand on their own. You don't have to prove you're changing. You don't have to prove you're growing. You don't have to prove you're serious. Show it in how you move. Show it in how you respond. Show it in what you no longer entertain. Silence will teach you how to let your life answer for you. There is wisdom in restraint. There is strength in discretion. There is peace in not having to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. When you stop trying to be understood by everyone, you finally understand yourself. So work, build, heal, learn, grow, pray, study, execute, fall, get back up. Do it without an announcement. Do it without a performance. Do it without needing validation from people who won't be there when it gets hard. Let the quiet seasons shape you, stretch you, and strengthen you until the results make the noise for you. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness because we live in a world that rewards noise. The loudest voice in the room is usually the one that gets the attention, the validation, the spotlight. But attention and strength are not the same thing. Real strength doesn't need to announce itself. Real power doesn't rush to explain. Silence, when chosen intentionally, becomes a form of self-mastery. It is the discipline of knowing you have something to say, but choosing not to say it yet. When you move in silence, you are not shrinking, you are sharpening. You are protecting your focus from being scattered by opinions that were never meant to guide you. Every time you speak prematurely, you expose your vision to people who may not understand its weight. They don't see what you see, they don't feel the urgency you feel, and they don't carry the responsibility you carry. Their doubts can sound like wisdom if you're not grounded, and their questions can weaken your confidence if you let them. Silence creates space for clarity. When you stop talking, you start listening to your instincts, to your intuition, to the quiet nudges that guide your next move. Noise creates confusion, but stillness creates alignment. Many people are overwhelmed not because they lack direction, but because they are surrounded by too many voices competing for authority over their decisions. Silence helps you filter what matters from what merely sounds important. There is also protection in silence. Not everyone who listens to you is listening to support you. Some people are listening to collect information, to compare, to judge, or to interfere. When you keep certain things private, you remove opportunities for envy to grow, for doubt to spread, for negativity to attach itself to something that is still fragile. Strength knows when to guard and when to reveal. Silence builds internal confidence rather than external validation. When you stop relying on applause, you begin to trust yourself. You learn how to move forward even when no one is cheering, liking, or affirming your steps. That kind of confidence is unshakable because it is rooted in self-belief. Not public approval. Loud validation fades quickly, but quiet assurance sustains you when things get hard. Choosing silence also means choosing patience. Strong people understand timing. They know that saying the right thing at the wrong time can weaken its impact. Silence allows growth to happen naturally. Without pressure to perform or impress, it gives ideas time to mature, skills time to develop, and character time to deepen. Rushed exposure often leads to burnout, disappointment, and unnecessary struggle. Silence strengthens emotional control. When you don't feel the need to react to everything, you stop giving your power away. You become intentional rather than impulsive. You learn how to respond instead of react, how to observe instead of argue, how to stay composed instead of defensive. This level of control is not passive, it is powerful. It shows that you are not easily provoked or manipulated by external noise. There is also a quiet courage in silence. It takes strength to keep working when no one sees your effort. It takes courage to believe in your vision when no one understands it yet. Silence forces you to confront your own doubts without distraction. It makes you accountable to yourself. You can't hide behind words, you have to back everything with action. When you work in silence, your progress becomes undeniable. There is no need to convince anyone of your capability because the results speak with authority. People may ignore words, but they cannot ignore consistency. They may doubt promises, but they cannot deny transformation. Silence allows your work to mature until it no longer needs an introduction. Silence also teaches humility. You realize that not everything needs to be shared and not every success needs to be broadcast. You learn to appreciate growth without needing witnesses. This humility keeps you grounded, prevents arrogance, and keeps your focus on purpose rather than praise. It reminds you that the work itself is more important than recognition for the work. In a world addicted to constant expression, choosing silence becomes a radical act of strength. It says you are secure enough not to explain yourself, confident enough not to defend your path, and focused enough not to be distracted by unnecessary noise. Silence becomes your shield, your training ground, and your source of clarity. It allows you to build with intention, move with wisdom, and grow with depth. Not everyone deserves access to your process, and learning this truth can save you years of frustration, confusion, and unnecessary pain. Access is powerful. What people are allowed to see, hear, and influence can either strengthen what you're building or slowly weaken it. When you give everyone a front row seat to your journey, you expose yourself to opinions that were never meant to shape your decisions. Your process is personal. It is where you are learning, unlearning, falling, getting back up, and figuring things out in real time. It is messy, vulnerable, and unfinished. When you allow too many people into that space, they often expect perfection instead of progress. They judge what is still in development as if it were already complete, and that pressure can cause you to second-guess yourself. Oversharing creates unnecessary noise. People will project their fears onto your dreams, their failures onto your efforts, and their limitations onto your vision. What started as excitement can quickly turn into confusion when too many voices begin speaking into something that requires focus. Not everyone speaks from wisdom. Some speak from jealousy, insecurity, or a need to feel relevant in your life. There is a difference between seeking counsel and seeking validation. Counsel comes from people who are aligned with your growth and have the capacity to guide you. Validation comes from people who simply want to feel included. When you confuse the two, you end up sharing intimate details with people who cannot carry them responsibly. Their reactions can discourage you, slow you down, or push you into making decisions that don't align with who you are becoming. Access should be earned, not assumed. Just because someone is close to you doesn't mean they are safe for your vision. Some people are meant to enjoy the results, not manage the process. They can celebrate with you when the work is done, but they don't need to be involved while the foundation is still being laid. Protecting your process is not secrecy. It is wisdom. When you share too much too soon, you open the door to sabotage, even if it's unintentional. Some people will question you out of concern, but their questions can plant seeds of doubt. Others will compare your journey to theirs and subtly discourage you. And some will compete with you, not because they hate you, but because your growth highlights what they've neglected in themselves. Guarding your process allows you to move freely without constant explanation. You don't have to justify every decision or defend every step. You gain the freedom to adjust, pivot, and evolve without feeling watched or judged. This freedom creates confidence because you're no longer moving according to external expectations. Privacy also strengthens your relationship with yourself. When fewer people know what you're doing, you're forced to rely on your own commitment rather than external accountability. You learn discipline instead of motivation. You show up because you believe in what you're building, not because someone is watching. That kind of consistency creates real growth. Not everyone has the emotional maturity to handle your becoming. They may love the version of you that feels familiar, but resist the version of you that is growing. When they have too much access to your process, they may try to pull you back into old patterns, not out of malice, but out of comfort. Limiting access helps you move forward without unnecessary resistance. Your healing especially requires protection. Healing is not a performance. It doesn't need an audience or commentary. When too many people know your wounds, they may try to define you by them or constantly remind you of who you used to be. Keeping your healing private allows it to be genuine, uninterrupted, and free from judgment. When the process is protected, the outcome is stronger. What grows in privacy develops roots deep enough to withstand public pressure. By the time others see the results, you are no longer fragile. You are confident, grounded, and prepared to handle both praise and criticism. Limiting access wasn't about hiding. It was about giving yourself the space to become who you were meant to be. Letting your work speak louder than your words requires a level of discipline that many people avoid because words are easier than action. Talking creates the illusion of progress. It feels productive to explain your goals, announce your plans, and describe what you're going to do. But nothing replaces the power of consistent execution. Results carry a weight that words can never match. When you talk too much about what you're building, you often release the pressure that should be pushing you forward. The brain receives a sense of satisfaction from being acknowledged, even when nothing has been completed. That temporary satisfaction can slow momentum. Quiet work keeps the hunger alive. It keeps you moving because the reward hasn't come yet. Consistency is louder than promises. Anyone can speak with confidence about future success, but very few people are willing to show up daily when no one is watching. When your actions line up repeatedly over time, they create credibility. You don't have to defend yourself because your track record does it for you. People trust what they can observe more than what they are told. Letting your work speak also protects you from unnecessary arguments. When you explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you waste energy that could be invested in growth. Silence removes you from debates that don't matter. You no longer need to prove your worth or justify your path. The evidence becomes undeniable with time. Results shift the conversation. When you produce real change, people stop questioning your intentions and start noticing your impact. They may have ignored your words, but they cannot ignore your consistency. They may have doubted your vision, but they cannot deny transformation. Action closes mouths that explanation never could. Working quietly teaches patience. Results don't come instantly, and when you rely on your work to speak, you accept that recognition is delayed. This patience builds character. You learn to trust the process even when it feels invisible. You learn to value progress over applause. Over time, this mindset keeps you grounded and focused rather than distracted by validation. When your work speaks, it speaks honestly. Words can be exaggerated, polished, and rehearsed. Actions reveal truth. They show discipline, commitment, and integrity. They expose effort and sacrifice. You cannot fake consistency, and you cannot pretend your way into results. Letting your work speak means allowing truth to represent you. There is also humility in action-driven growth. You don't feel the need to boast because you know what it took to get there. You remember the late nights, the failures, the quiet sacrifices. This humility keeps you teachable and grateful. It allows you to celebrate without arrogance and succeed without losing yourself. Allowing your work to speak reduces pressure. When you stop talking about what you're doing, you remove the expectation to perform on a timeline that others have created for you. You can move at a pace that allows depth rather than rushing to meet external standards. This freedom leads to stronger, more sustainable results. Work that speaks is rooted in substance, not image. It doesn't depend on trends, opinions, or temporary approval. It stands firm because it was built with intention. Over time, people may forget what you said, but they will remember what you produced, how you showed up, and the impact you made. When you let your work speak, you attract the right attention. The people who notice are often those who value effort, discipline, and growth. These are the connections that matter. Loud announcements attract curiosity, but quiet results attract respect. Choosing action over explanation strengthens your confidence. You no longer need to convince yourself or others of your ability. Each completed step becomes proof. Each small win reinforces belief. This confidence grows steadily, independent of external praise. Letting your work speak louder than your words is not about being silent forever. It is about allowing substance to lead and speech to follow. When the foundation is solid, words become unnecessary. The work stands on its own. Telling a story that no explanation could ever improve. Quiet seasons are often misunderstood because they don't look impressive from the outside. There is no applause, no spotlight, no visible confirmation that anything meaningful is happening. But these seasons are where real strength is formed. When life slows down and the noise fades, you are forced to confront who you are without distractions, and that confrontation is what builds resilience. In quiet seasons, you learn how to stand without support. There are no constant affirmations, no external reminders that you're doing well. You have to rely on internal commitment rather than motivation. This teaches endurance. You keep showing up not because it feels good, but because you've decided that quitting is no longer an option. That decision alone reshapes your character. Resilience is built when you keep moving despite uncertainty. Quiet seasons rarely come with clear timelines or guarantees. You don't always know when things will shift or how the outcome will look. Learning to work through that uncertainty strengthens your emotional capacity. You become comfortable not having all the answers, trusting that progress is happening even when it isn't visible yet. These seasons also teach humility. Without an audience, you realize how much of your identity was tied to recognition. You confront the need for praise and learn to detach your worth from approval. Humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself, it means thinking of yourself less. You become more focused on purpose than performance, more invested in growth than image. Clarity often emerges in the quiet. When distractions fall away, you begin to see what truly matters. You recognize which relationships drain you and which ones support you. You identify habits that no longer serve you. Quiet seasons strip away excess, leaving only what is essential. This clarity helps you move forward with intention rather than impulse. Endurance is strengthened when there is no immediate reward. In quiet seasons, effort feels thankless. You don't receive instant feedback or visible success, but this teaches you to value discipline over motivation. You learn that consistency, even when it feels monotonous, creates long-term strength. This kind of endurance cannot be developed in moments of excitement, it is forged in repetition. Quiet seasons also deepen self-trust. Without constant opinions shaping your decisions, you learn to listen to yourself. You become more confident in your instincts. This confidence isn't loud or aggressive. It's calm and steady. You stop seeking permission to grow and start giving yourself the authority to evolve. There is emotional maturity that develops in silence. You learn how to manage disappointment without broadcasting it. You learn how to process frustration without lashing out. You learn how to celebrate small progress without external validation. This emotional regulation allows you to handle greater responsibility when it arrives. Clarity brings alignment. When you understand your values, you stop chasing things that don't align with them. You stop forcing connections, opportunities, and outcomes that were never meant for you. Quiet seasons help you recognize when to let go and when to persist. This discernment saves time, energy, and emotional strain. Resilience built in quiet seasons prepares you for public pressure. When success eventually comes, you are not easily shaken by criticism or overwhelmed by praise. You have already learned how to stand alone. You know who you are without the noise. That grounding keeps you steady regardless of circumstances. Strength developed in silence is sustainable. It doesn't depend on external validation or constant momentum. It remains stable even when things slow down again. Quiet seasons teach you that growth is not always loud, fast, or visible. Sometimes the most important work happens in stillness, shaping you from the inside out. Everything you are becoming requires a level of discipline, restraint, and wisdom that noise cannot support. Working in silence is not about isolation, it is about intention. It is about knowing when to speak and when to protect, when to share and when to build privately. Silence strengthens your focus, guards your process, and allows your work to mature without interference. Not everyone deserves access to your becoming, because not everyone has the capacity to nurture what is still growing. When you stop explaining and start executing, when you stop announcing and start aligning, your life begins to speak with authority. Quiet seasons refine your character, deepen your clarity, and build resilience that applause never could. In the end, the results will carry more weight than any words you could have spoken. Because what is built in silence stands firm when the noise returns, so work quietly, stay disciplined, trust the process, and let the outcome make all the noise.